when we got those action plans, and I just kind of got fed up with this group because we got those action plans, you know, those matrix and everything was very organized and communicated to us and so forth, and I kept calling them in the city and Monica Vernon and everybody on the resource centers. And even Sarah Elsie was saying, hey, look, we were going to have community centers in the neighborhoods. And Monica kept saying, oh, yeah, that's a priority, and not at all. Nothing's moved forward with that except their pre-flood, multi-generational center. And that's it. There's been no talk about community centers, and that came out in the open houses, too. There's been no talk about neighborhood pocket parks. You know, I'm talking with pavilions and trees and stuff. That not those little things like, you know, on Williams Boulevard where they have this little triangle park, you know, green spot, you know.
So, Lisa, these guys, when I asked that question, they didn't feel that way. And I have to honestly say, when we went through these meetings, I didn't hear anything from you saying that you felt that way.
Yeah. Yep, constantly. I was saying that. I was bringing up where are the community resource centers, where are the pocket parks, and they weren't on the action plan. And I brought it up, and I just kept being ignored. The city had their action plan set, and it's like they didn't even want to hear what's different, the different things that came out of the process. And I am a big fighter for the neighborhood, so I don't go into the special interest or anything like that or get in bed with the city. I'm speaking for the people, and that's been a big complaint. And they were ignoring what did come out.
So what progress do you see has been made?
Oh, well, the city's plan, whatever they want. They bond for whatever they can't get.
Have you taken a look at the Parks Rec Master Plan? Because I think that dealt with some of those issues that came out of, you know, it started pre-flood and then flood is when they finished it up, taking into account everything that's going on. And the idea of pocket parks compared to, you know, larger, I forget what I think they call them signature parks. So that addressed, I think, that with the idea of pocket parks.
I see nothing moving forward. I see the city buying a hotel with that $3.5 million from the insurance check from Sinclair. That could have helped with a whole lot of pocket parks to build a resource center. It took how long? 3 years to demolish the Time Check Rec Center in a neighborhood in the state that needed a resource center more than anything, so that we could all get together and you know, compare notes and everything and help one another with the assistance that's available. There's been assistance out there that the Flip Veterans have never even heard of, and that would have been different had we had that community center back. Even if it was a FEMA trailer. I worked hard with Julie Steina and got that in the school board and got that temporary FEMA trailer at Harrison. Julie, we looked at where Matthew 25 is located now, and we had decided to, it was Scott Olson and Julie Steina, and we were going to use that as our resource center. And Julie promised she'd get it on the agenda the next time, and so I backed off and started taking care of my own personal flood issues. Find out, she just dropped the ball.
So what are you happy about?
Not much. What am I happy about, AJ? We visit all the time. Can she help me know what I'm happy about? I don't remember anything.
I think there is progress being made. There's a rec center being planned on the northwest side on the near the Time Check Park. There's development continuing on the northwest side. There's an overlay district being talked about for Ellis Boulevard to keep the character of the neighborhood. That was part of the neighborhood development, or neighborhood planning process, that we wanted to keep the character of the neighborhood the same. And we're talking about standards to ensure that. Rec center. The rec center. Those are the positive things that I can say right now. What
about you, Dan?
I think there's still a frustration on my part about the efforts to protect the west side, but that's just me. Move out of the I'm out there. On the positive side of things, I guess I see from a process standpoint as well that there's some opportunities provided, and that this process might have helped us identify some of those opportunities to take, well, I guess react a little bit more resilient to what happens. I've never participated in a process of this scope, especially as it was related to crisis or disaster. You know, I think that was new to a lot of folks. You know, at the same time, people were really going through their own individual and business reactions. I didn't agree with that, but just reacting to the stuff that happened to them. Folks like this were trying to participate in the process. At the same time, that's tough. You know, and so a lot of that in meetings, dedicated folks who were really trying to participate and make things better, still had to go home and do all their own stuff. You know, there were folks out that were up before on the northeast side or whatever who didn't have any direct impact. Some of them just being totally unaware of what was going on. Many of them wanting to participate, not knowing how. And feeling somewhat guilty because they were impacted directly when that was happening.
Yeah,
some folks.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people feel guilty too.
You know, it sounds kind of weird, but I live out in that area with some folks, but which is what I do. I don't understand the devastation. I live in this town. Well, I know, we live in this town.
You know?
And we really didn't, you know, take the time just to walk around downtown. Yeah. So I tell them to just walk around the neighborhoods. Just see what's happening to some of these folks. And the ones that did, would get it and try to help. The ones that didn't, we didn't care enough to it. But I don't know if that answers your question. I was very emotional. I the process.
Does this kind of capture creating resiliency?
I think it's created some mechanisms for planning and related to resiliency, and maybe has forced some groups to work together in the past, which I wouldn't go through this again to make that happen. But
I think another thing I would mention, Brad, that I think is positive in the recovery and reinvestment is the replacement housing. You know, there's a tremendous number of homes that have been built already right at the northwest side. There's a lot more coming all the way up and down. And there's, you know, hopefully, I believe if I've got the number right, about 200 homes in those programs. and it's all infill, they're all flooded lots. I think that's positive, more rooftops. It's good for the schools, good for businesses, good for the neighborhood.
Go ahead, you're right.
I was going to say, I think along that line, infill development, I think is good. Talks about, city gardens in the area. I think focus on the rural area, the whole streetscape down there, emphasis more on trails and commuting. There's little things with the buses, with the bike racks on there. I think those are all areas that are being referred to as that came up in that discussion.
That was specifically mentioned, I remember, bike racks.
Yeah.
So all of these things that we listed, I can look at this.
Yeah, well,
That's
the
positive.
right now on there.
I live in the middle of the park now. I don't have neighbor problems anymore. That's
So
positive.
of all these, what do you kind of, what do you think is the most significant to you, or what are you most proud about at this point? We're excited about. Maybe that's the word.
Yeah, to me, it's hard to separate out long-term renters and when is the best, because when you look at something that's devastating, and you see that there starting to be more life coming back, and for instance, you got the infill houses, you're starting to see some improvement there, starting to see more coordination with the streetscapes, overlays. Now people are starting to think, hey, we need to start looking beyond, and tomorrow start thinking years ahead instead of what goes in that block next year.
I would add that I think that, more people are looking forward now, looking to the future instead of looking back, instead of still being focused on the devastation of that event, which we're going on 4 years. So I've got, reporters contacting me again, wanting to do stories. It's that time again. But, I'm looking forward. There's so many positive things happening that I think more and more people are looking at that.
Yeah, I think I feel that way too. I feel like you're going through the action plans, and you're doing these updates. They're doing the quarterly at the very beginning, and then biannual, and then annual as we got further out. So I remember when we were putting those together, it was, it seemed like everything was just about there when I was looking at everything. It was just about there. It seems like we kind of gotten to the hump. A lot of stuff in the next couple of years is going to get to the completion phase. The street, the housing, the facilities, that's my thing.
Didn't Drew replace you and change the outline? Or is it in there? Drew was there, almost been there.
He was there, but Brad was the lead staff person.
Drew was gone. You don't remember being at the end? Drew was
I think that's when.
Oh, yeah. That's it.
They'll do it.
The FYI, my wife is due next week. So.
Congratulations.
Number 2.
Can I make some comments on some of those that certain people in here see as positive? Because I think it's important to discuss the other side. So, replacement housing, the new construction, that if things actually occurred, the fair and the right way and the legal way, we would have needed that replacement housing. There were some people that walked away, but there were most people that were frustrated with the process. A lot of it had to do with the administration of Jumpstart, which ironically is getting the free property, the nonprofit hired for Jumpstart. So there was a lot of people kind of basically forced out, even in the neighborhood revitalization area, because they weren't getting the help. Groups like Quasi Blocks had taken over the volunteers, so it was next to impossible to get the volunteer help and making contact with them and everything. And it was just it was wrong. And so although the replacement housing, like Al brought out, they are meeting the character of the neighborhood. I've driven through there, the new houses, they do fit in there, and I'm really happy about that. But it wasn't right how the flood victims were treated. And if we had gotten the help to rehab, we wouldn't have even needed that. We wouldn't have needed buyouts, we wouldn't have needed the demolitions, we wouldn't have needed interim mortgage assistance, we wouldn't have needed down payment assistance, and we wouldn't have been giving these properties away for free, and we wouldn't have needed the money for replacement housing.
We've been tracking the satisfaction of people that have gone through the process, and I won't say that it's 100% of by far the vast majority have been appreciative of the help that it is.
Well, sure, but, they're getting a house with 25% down payment assistance. They didn't have to deal with, most of them, if not all, are not flood victims. They didn't have to deal with what we went through. We should have gotten the help first instead of the non-flood victims getting these brand new houses at 25% down payment.
So
I'd be happy to if I were their sheriff.
So what we'd like to do, kind of the thing that we've been talking about is the progress that's been made, and kind of the full circle. You're getting calls again from reporters. This has been 4 years later. People still remember this, even though it's been 4 years. Another thing that we're concerned about is keeping having people remember the hard work that was put into this. And so we put together this presentation that kind of put together the stats of the NPP. I don't think we need to go through it unless you guys want to. What we want to know is, this is just a rough draft, but because this group put so much hard work into this, and trust me, this is something that we as staff is we are very appreciative of a group like this group that put in all the hours that you did and the effort and the passion that you guys have for this process. It was a lot of work for staff too, but we really appreciate efforts like that. What we'd like to ask you is if there's a group, 1, 2, or 3 of the representatives from the steering committee that would like to present this information to the city council on June 26th. I would be there, or another staff person, because my wife is here. Would be there to help with any technical questions, but we feel that would be really, that the city council needs to hear this from the steering committee, because the steering committee is really the champions of the process.
I nominate Brett.
Well, you gotta get them to-
You're right, that's right. Well, actually, you're right.
And also, I think most of you guys have been engaged in some way or another with flood recovery, different programs, multi-county, whether new construction or reviewing proposals.
I'd be happy to help with that.
How's it doing?
Okay. So if you guys could look through here, tell me what you think is missing. You don't have to do it here. You guys can take it home. This is something we put together last month. There's new numbers that we need to update the process. But if there's key messages that you think that are missing and you need to be added into, we're all here to want to do that. Okay.
Can I ask a question just to clarify to, remember your name?
Oh, yeah.
Adam? When those 3 meetings took place for the river planning, whatever it was that in 2008?
It was.
Okay. And then, I just wanted to make a comment on what Lisa said, that we were for Sped choices. I had neighbors that would have liked to have their neighborhood just the way it was, and they were forced to move out. I know a lady who lived in her house since 1961, and when she learned that this was a voluntary property acquisition and she really didn't have to move out, she was very upset. And then, I guess for progress, it depends on your definition of progress. I seen the demolition of our rec center as going the opposite direction. It was not green. All of the heating and cooling was on the roof. The only thing that was wrong was the city just did not clean it out, or the county. It was one of the two. I couldn't get either one of them to do anything to clean it out. If we could have just cleaned it out, we wouldn't have had to waste however much millions of dollars on a new rec center. That would have made a lot of people happy. And the fact of the matter is, it's still in the 100-year floodplain. So we're still going to have upset people.
I can send you the river corridor master plan that we did right after the flood. It has information on like when the meetings were, how many hundreds of people participated, et cetera.
Okay.
And also the Park and Rec master plan.
I've seen that.
Goes into the Greenway,
I'm disenchanted with all that because my house still sits on First Street. We had flood insurance, unlike some people in here, and we were responsible, and we did what we were supposed to do with our flood insurance money. We don't appreciate being told that we're not, we're being treated like children. Oh, this is for your own good. But is it for our own good? We just wiped out a 120-year-old tax base. Was it for our own good? Everybody's taxes in town have gone up. Was that for our own good? So, and I love the way the new boat looks. I think it looks great. Keep up the good work. There's a lot of positive things that have come out of this flood. And one thing I wouldn't trade is the friendships and relationships I've made afterwards. But, my kids and I participated, and I just feel like everything that my kids have suggested, nothing has been used. Not one suggestion. We want to save a stone house on 3rd Street and make it into a bathroom for the Greenway. We are still fighting with city council members over that. It's a Sears and Roebuck home, yeah. We live there. Why can't we have some say in what goes on in our neighborhood?
There's a lot of the money that the city receives from the federal government.
Well, we already got. I'm still waiting from last Thursday for a reply from Chris Julich, Joe O'Hearn, or Ann Poe, anybody, on my rebuttal, because it is not incompatible with HMGP. Everything that we've suggested is not incompatible. All we have to do is make an adjustment to the plan, and then turn it back into FEMA, and voila, it's done.
Yeah, I just know that it's really difficult to develop those because the screen's attached. I don't know all the ins and outs, so it's probably really difficult.
What I'm wondering is, where's my house in the plan? Why is my house not there? And if it's not there, then you guys need to redo the plan and put it there, because it's not moving, and we're not moving at all.
I do want to point out that under HMGP, a restroom is allowed. When a property is purchased with HMGP, it's the only enclosed structure that's allowed is a public bathroom. And so it does qualify. And then I want to say, all those of us that were involved in the neighborhood before the flood and after the flood, right after, and putting in a lot of work and speaking up for the neighbors, we all volunteered to clean out that rec center and it cost the city a dime. And we wanted that rec center back. And the Northwest Neighborhood Association took a unanimous vote to keep it in the neighborhood, which finally, after a whole lot of fighting, it is. But we all wanted that back. And there was no disagreement there with anybody who was involved in the neighborhood and had the neighborhood best interest in mind. And they did exactly the opposite of what we all wanted to do. They were listening to other groups and doing what they wanted, because that multi-generational center was planned, long before the flood. And they were using that opportunity to get what they wanted.
You see, Wells Fargo Bank says multi-generation center. That'd be a perfect place for it. Seriously.
Well, I really appreciate you guys taking more of your time to help us out in this presentation. Is there anything else that you guys want to comment on, or you need from staff? Al and Brett, if you guys want to get comments back to me, I can follow up.
Yeah, I was going to say, we send it out to, yeah.
Okay.
I would like to comment on somebody's happiness about our transit system up there. The city hasn't done one thing in getting our ground transportation center back.
Well, that's not true.
And that's it.
No, I mean, part of, and I'm not expecting all citizens, whether they've been flood impacted or not, because they're mostly in the same position. There are a lot of things going on that people don't know about.
Oh, yeah, I know about
And
their
for one,
plan.
the federal government, the city received a grant in 2004 or 5 maybe, to build, and I don't know why, but they received a grant to build almost the exact same duplicate facility somewhere in the city. It's going to be planned to be a couple blocks away. New city council came on board, those things changed, now the flood happens, and the Federal Transit Administration, who administers the grant, and it doesn't matter what anyone in Cedar Rapids wants or says, FTA at the end of the day has final say. And they said, you have to be definitely out of the 100-year floodplain, so the old sites are out, and they really wanted us out of the 500-year. Now, at the same time, their rules say, if you want to get rid of the GTC, you want to sell it, you want to do whatever, you have to pay the federal government back. A lot of money. Came out to be $4.4 million. But if you go back to the 100-year floodplain in the GTC, you won't have to pay us back.
I think you have to pay the rent, right?
No, not at all.
If you go back, you have to pay it back.
No, not at all.
That's not what the city manager has
Well,
said.
the city manager has the facts. I mean, basically, if we go back to GTC, and that's why the decision was made, we do not have to pay the federal interest, remaining federal interest, to the federal government. That's a fact. City manager knows it, everyone involved knows it. However,
That's where they made the decision.
so if we go back to the 100-year floodplain, we don't have to pay the money back. If we were to go outside the 100-year floodplain,